Today I'm talking about the top two areas that tend to draw buyers who have kids in school in Clark County. These are Camas, Washington and Hockinson, Washington. So Camas, as most of you know, is just east of Vancouver along the Columbia River. And then Hockinson is an area like northeast of Camas and south of Battleground that they both just have very highly rated schools. Their high schools do really well with the test scores and with graduation rates. And a theme for me lately is that I have buyers who are trying to decide between these two areas. And what's also kind of funny in my own personal experience, I grew up in Camas. Obviously, I have a lot of friends who grew up in Camas, and a lot of those people have like migrated up to Hockinson. And I think it's partially because of the school, and then also because Hockinson now feels a little bit more like how Camas felt when we were growing up, just in terms of like being small. So today, I just want to discuss lots of buyers, they are drawn to Camas, also thinking about Hockinson. These two areas have awesome schools, but they're very different in terms of what they have to offer, in terms of community and in terms of geography, just like location, right? So how do you choose between the two areas? I'm just gonna go through a list of pros and cons, and this is all my personal opinion. There is some data at the end, but mostly this is my personal opinion. So what I like, you might hate, big disclaimer there. Thank you for watching. My name is Leslie. I do new videos every week on life and real estate here in Southwest Washington. What else? I work with buyers and sellers pretty much all over Clark County. If you like the videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn that little bell on for notifications. If you ever want to have a chat about what it's like to live here in Southwest Washington, feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the header above and also in the description below. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I always answer my phone, so try that. I'll chat. And if you're in the area, I'd love to meet up with you to discuss what you're looking for in a home or what it'd be like to live here. I have buyer tours that I give out to people based on what their preferences are, blah, blah, blah. Okay. As I just mentioned, and if you've been watching the videos at all, you know I grew up in Camas, and I now live in Hockinson, and I'm raising my 4 kids up there. My husband and I are raising our kids up there. He mentioned that I don't mention him on the videos. I don't mean to, I just forget. In this video, I'm comparing and contrasting living in these two areas based on a list of pros and cons that I came up with. There is only so much major life decision making you can make by online research. And I think, I will give you some guidance. I'm going to list out all this information, but what it always is going to boil down to is your own personal preference. And at some point, you just need to get your feet on the ground and drive around these areas. I say it a lot that there's just so much about buying a home that is very much based on your own personal preferences and your emotions, right? Like I had a client comment recently, like they are picking out a new bed frame. It takes them hours and hours, and they're contrasting all of these different options, and it's like just an agonizing decision-making process. Maybe it's not like that for everyone. So I think for me, yes, I would take more time. But a lot of times when you walk into a house, you generally have a feeling once you're in that house of like, I can feel myself living here or see myself living here or not. And same thing when you're choosing an area. It might just take you driving around in that area to get a feel for it, to be able to decide like, yeah, I could totally see myself driving these roads every day, or no, I don't see it here. Okay, so let's start out with a list of pros for Camas, because this is kind of the easy place to start. First of all, location is everything, right? Location, location, location. Camas is very popular. If you're looking at an area that in terms of your resale value is gonna be a very safe bet, Camas is an easy shot. Everybody wants to live in Camas. Also, convenience factor, Camas has that on their side. You are super close to everything on the east side of Vancouver, that Fisher's Landing area in terms of shopping, easy access to the 205 into Highway 14, easy access to the freeway. If you wanna go down to the gorge to go hiking or head over to Mount Hood, easy access to 14 going down to Stevenson. Camas definitely has a leg up on that front. Also, their community events are fantastic. So they have, the Downtown Association does a really nice job of planning stuff and putting on like things for Halloween and Christmas and First Friday. So there's a lot of things to do to get plugged in the community in Camas. Camas is a mecca for sports, for like, I think it was ranked #1 in Washington State for school sports. Camas High School was ranked #1 in Washington State for school sports. So if your kids are like high level athletes and you like want your kid to play competitively in college, like, yeah, maybe look at Camas because they are developing like that level of athletes. Camas also has more neighborhoods, like it has a more urban feel. So if you want to be in that neighborhood setting, in Hockinson, you only have like 1 or 2 options. In Camas, like neighborhoods galore, so many options. I already talked about, I'm using a cheat sheet. I already talked about the 162nd, 192nd corridors. Camas, like you are 5 or 10 minutes away from those, depending on where you are. Because if you are out in Fern Prairie, like north of Lacamas Lake, then you actually are much farther away from that stuff. And it'd be very similar to living in Hockinson in terms of accessibility to stuff. But on 162nd, 164th, and 192nd, I'm so sorry if you don't know these roads, that probably means nothing to you, but there's tons of shopping, activities, stores, restaurants. Where I live in Hockinson, like there's one restaurant option, and I usually just drive down to Fisher's Landing with my husband if we're doing a date night. Like there's just not, we could go up to Battleground, but there's just like not as many options. Camas definitely has a more suburban feel than Hockinson. Hockinson is definitely more rural. The downtown is super cute. It's just fun to walk around, and they have like antique shops and boutiques and Liberty Theater down there if you want to go see a movie. Hawkinson's downtown is like a Shell station in Hockinson Market. Like these are the things. Not a whole lot. Oh, and the fire department, like three buildings. Camas has much more walking trails and parks than Hockinson does. Again, Hawkinson's rural. So like when I go for a walk at my house, I'm like on a country road. There's not a sidewalk. There's not like a ton of options for where I go for walks. I'm just walking the same thing every time, which works for me. I could also go to Hockinson Meadows Community Park because they have a walking trail. Camas, you have Lacamas Lake Heritage Trail, you have Fallen Leaf Park, you have Round Lake, you have, I don't know, there's just tons of options, lots more options for walking. And then obviously in Camas, you have Lacamas Lake. So if you're into boating or water skiing or jet skiing or kayaking, like you have easy access right there to this great lake where you can do water sports. All right. Cons for Camas. I kind of see the elite sports thing as being a con. I was not like an elite athlete. I was just kind of like your average soccer player, track athlete that I got to be on varsity because it wasn't super competitive probably. So honestly, that's kind of what I wanted for my kids. Is like, I want my kids to have a shot at being on varsity, even if they're not like top tier. And I know not everyone is like that, but just something to consider as you're considering these places. In Camas, it's gonna cost more to get you into a house that's like less house, right? So it's gonna cost you more money, less house. And they also have much bigger schools and a bigger school system. And I meant to look up those stats, and I'm sorry I didn't. If I remember later, I will put it down here in the bottom of this section so that you have that information on hand as you are watching this. So now let's go into pros of Hockinson. More homes on property. So in Camas, if I hear someone say, I want a house on 5 acres, I'm immediately thinking, all right, we're looking at Fern Prairie and it's gonna cost you, right? In Hockinson, like it is more common and easier to find a home that's on 2.5, 5 acres, 10 acres, because there's just so much more of them. Hockinson is like on the outskirts of the urban growth area boundary. And so the development has just not gotten there yet. Camas is like very developed, and you'll hear from a lot of locals that it's developed a lot, maybe more than they wanted it to in the last 10 years, 20 years. Hockinson is still like slow rolling their development. So that would be a pro for Hockinson. Their school system is much smaller. Again, I meant to look up these stats. I didn't do it. I will put it here if I remember to do that later. I'm sure I will. Less people, and it's just a smaller community. So Hockinson population is 6,159 as of the last census. In Camas, where did I write that down? Camas was at like 24,000 residents. So like that's a really big difference. Like obviously Camas is much larger than Hockinson. They are growing. Like the urban growth boundary is going to get there with Hockinson, and then I'm sure all the Hockinson people will be pissed that it's growing so much. But yeah, it's just not there yet. We do have one new event venue called Clover Lane. I was at an open house a couple weeks ago, and a couple came in that lives in Hockinson, and they were saying how they're in a band and it's playing at Clover Lane. And I had like been seeing Clover Lane be developed, and I knew that there was events, but I haven't followed very closely. But that's like the old Finn Hall. I have a video on Hockinson. I'll link it above on one of these sites, and you can watch that. But that's kind of fun that like, oh, there's something I could go do that's within like 5 or 10 minutes from my house instead of like driving to downtown Vancouver or driving to downtown Camas. Obviously, Hockinson has a very small town feel. It's very easy to bump into people. Like when my kids are at soccer practice at Hockinson Meadows Park, I usually just like walk while I wait. I'm not the mom that sits there and watches. I need to keep moving. And I see people I know at the park, and it's kind of fun to like stop and chat, right? You don't feel anonymous in Hockinson, that's for sure. Hockinson is very close to Battleground for shopping and dining options, and Battleground is growing on me every time I go up there because they really do have super cute shops. They have great restaurants. It's like a small town feel, but not like as populated as Camas. And then, as I mentioned before, Hockinson has a lot less development, just being outside of that urban growth boundary. Obviously, that's going to change over time. Cons of Hockinson. First and foremost, it is a more rural setting. So that can be a pro or a con. It just depends on your preference. Do you like to have more space around you and around your house? Or do you prefer to have neighbors to chit chat with and like grow your social circle? Does it bother you to have to drive 20 minutes to the store? Or is that something you're fine with? Is it important to you that like you can like run to the coffee shop and get a coffee within 10 minutes of your house? You know what I mean? Totally personal preference. You are further away from shopping activities in Hockinson. As I mentioned, there's not as many restaurants or shopping locally. You're just gonna have to like know that you're gonna be driving for 20 minutes, right? To get anywhere. And that might work for you, or it really might not work for you. And then really there's just that one major park, Hockinson Meadows Park, and you have to drive to get to other options. Okay, let's talk about money. How much is it gonna cost you to get into a house in Camas versus a house in Hockinson? I looked at the average sales price for the RMLS Market Action Report that was just published for July of 2022. And in Camas, the average home price was $841,000. And in Hockinson, the average home price was $631,000. So that's a pretty big difference. Like we're talking about a $200,000 swing just in terms of average sales price. And then another search that I did just out of interest in like, hey, if I wanted to have a 4-bedroom home, what for like around 3,000 square feet, what can I get in each area? So I looked at the most recent sold homes in both areas to see like, what did people just buy, right? It went away. Where'd it go? Okay, so if you're looking for a 4-bedroom home, about 3,000 square feet on a 1/4 acre in Camas, it's gonna cost you about $930,000. In Hockinson, I found a house that just closed that was 3,300 square feet on 5 acres, and that closed at 1.1 million. So expect to spend about the same amount on the house, but obviously you're getting more acreage to be in Hockinson, and I get that those numbers are very different. My point is that you end up having to, you get more for your money in Hockinson. And there are neighborhood homes like on 1/4 acre lots, just not as many in Hockinson. So they're just like, your search criteria would be very different from Camas to Hockinson. I hope that all makes sense. Hockinson does have some new community neighborhoods on the south end, like Granton Park, and Hockinson South has been around for a while, and Ramey Lane, and what's the other one? I think that those are most of them. It's like right north of where 162nd and Ward Road intersect. So I think that that takes into a large volume of the home sales for Hockinson and it skews the numbers down a little bit because those sales prices are going to be like in the 500, 600, 700s versus like the homes on property are tending to go for a lot more. So if you are wanting to get like a bigger home on property in Hockinson, just expect you're going to probably be in that $1 million range. So population statistics that I looked into, just big disclaimer here, I'm not trying to steer you into choosing one area over another. I'm just presenting you with facts that I found from the US Census, just to like, again, paint more of a picture and like draw, here are the numbers regarding populations in these two areas. So median household income was very similar between Hockinson and Camas. In Camas, for 2020, the median household income was $115,900, and in Hockinson, it was $114,500. let's see, retired people. There are more retired people in Hockinson. Well, not retired, more people over 65 in Hockinson than Camas. In Camas, it was just 12%, and in Hockinson, it was 18%. And another number they offered was in like diversity. So in Camas, 80% of the population is white. In Hockinson, that's at 92%. And then if you're looking at foreign born, like immigrants that are coming to each area, in Camas it's at 12%, and in Hockinson it is 7%, which I think makes sense given that there's more industry in Camas also, like wafer tech and what's that new one that moved in? Is it Enlight? Or like Sharp is over there. So I think that the industry in Camas is like drawing more people in as well. Okay, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for watching. Let me know what questions you have, and have a wonderful day. I'll be back on here next week to talk more about life in real estate here in Southwest Washington.